So if you are a writer, an arts lover, and a pianist who loves Beethoven, well, what do? You become a marketing person for a symphony, just as our next guest did, Maureen Bogues of Symphony Parnassus. Welcome.
Thank you, David.
Now, I remember when we first met, I thought you had one of the more eclectic resumes of anyone I had met recently. I mean, you're a writer and an editor and a marketing person, and by your own admission, what do you call it, a piano hack?
Kind of, yeah.
So what is a piano hack? I mean, you've played for a long time. That's more than a hack.
Well, it just means that I never got real accomplished, and it's still kind of embarrassing the way I play the same Beethoven sonata I did 35 years ago.
Well, yeah, but you've gotten really good at it, probably.
Not really. I just haven't been able to learn any new ones.
Right.
I kind of peaked at about age 22,
Yeah.
and that was it.
So you came here from Nebraska 20 years ago.
Yes.
And what has San Francisco, how I should say, has San Francisco changed from 20 years ago when you first came here, especially the journalistic world?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it really has changed a lot. I was just reading an article by Bill Moyers about the way that journalism has completely been transformed by the internet, not necessarily in the most positive way, because we've seen a lot of newspapers shut down or massive layoffs, and I really think it's hurt the profession. I don't think that the news profession has fully figured out what's going to happen with journalists and what the new model is in the face of the internet.
Yeah, because you spend a lot of time in front of a computer, a keyboard, writing, producing copy. How has how you work at your craft changed in the last 20 years? Because you're very prolific. You do a lot of marketing writing, you do journalism. That's what you do. How has how you approach it changed?
Well, I certainly think more like a marketer now. Because I spent all that time in newspapers and in journalism, there's always the thought that you are trying to be objective, and we all know that objectivity is difficult, but that's the goal and whatever. And I was always an arts reporter, so I didn't have the burden that somebody maybe covering the courts or the government would have. But still, reporting is a little bit more neutral, and when you're marketing, you're getting behind something and you're saying, well, we're going to do this and why you should come along. And that's why it's so much fun to promote this orchestra.
So talk to me about Symphony Parnassus, because I think a lot of people probably haven't heard about it. I was surprised about its depth and breadth of performances, the sort of real meaty compositions they tackle. But a lot of people would consider it a community orchestra.
It is.
But it also has a huge degree of professionalism that I think is beginning to make people hear about it.
Yes. Well, it's been around since 1989. It was founded by a graduate student at UCSF, and he drew in all of the doctors and scientists and other professionals who did music on the side, but obviously very accomplished musicians, because this music is not simple by any stretch of the
Right, because I think you
imagination.
just finished a concert of Dvorak, correct? Right. So you have physicists and probably some Nobel Prize winners. I mean, this is probably the brainiest orchestra in San Francisco.
Probably. It was founded in '89, and in 1999, they lost the funding from UCSF, and it became its own nonprofit called Symphony Parnassus, in homage to the Parnassus Heights neighborhood where UCSF is. And our music director is Stephen Paulson, who is the principal bassoon for San Francisco Symphony. And he has been at that symphony since 1977. He's been with us since 1998.
So now you've been working with Symphony Parnassus for the last couple of years, working on their
Couple of months.
marketing and public relations and whatnot. How is it different working with a professional musician versus someone who's a doctor by day and a musician by night? Do you find when they come to practice, when they come to rehearsal, are they still doctors or do they become artists?
I think they're all really artists when they get to rehearsal. It's all about the music. And Stephen brings a real incredible sense of professionalism. They all do. It's all professional, very professional, and demanding. You know, kind but demanding. He's a wonderful conductor, and it's really fascinating. What I've really loved, because I haven't had a front row seat like this to rehearsals, is to hear about all the interpretations. When they were working on Mendelssohn, for example, for our January concert, there are all these little nuances and how you get to how you make Mendelssohn sound so feathery and light. And it turns out it's a lot of work to sound so light.
Right. Now, as a musician yourself, amateur musician, do you feel that you have a better ear into understanding how to market music than someone else might not? I mean, you said that marketing writing is different from journalism. That you're selling something. Is it easier for you as someone who loves music to market music?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's one of my greatest passions, and it has been since I was in high school, taking those piano lessons. And though I didn't have that talent, and that certainly was not what I was called to do, it gave me this wonderful foundation in the music, and it just grows and grows and deepens. And actually, now that I've been attending all their rehearsals and hanging out with the orchestra, I just want to go to more concerts. It kind of just deepens my enthusiasm for it.
So talk to me a little bit about what's coming up in June. You have a series of new concerts coming up in June. So this
we have one
spring.
concert. We do 4 concerts a year, and it's one each season. One in the fall, winter, spring, summer, and we have a Shostakovich symphony and a new work by a San Francisco composer.
And talk to me about the venue. Where do you perform these?
We perform different venues. We 2 concerts this year at Herbst. We had the good fortune of being the first orchestra that got to go after the renovation.
So you're talking about Herbst in the War Memorial Complex, right next to the Opera House in front of City Hall on Van Ness.
Right. And we got to go in there. I think we were the first orchestra to perform since the renovation, so we were all very excited because it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
a gorgeous space and beautiful acoustics.
And we also do St. Mark's Church over on Geary Street, and it's much more intimate, which it's nice for smaller concerts, for Baroque, early classical music, and really, really nice. And what I've really enjoyed too, kind of as a newcomer to the orchestra, is when you go to Herbst, you have the feeling of the big concert experience and fancy and all that. And then when we were at the church, well, we do a little bake sale to raise money for the orchestra. It's very much a community orchestra. And I think what I talk to the musicians, and what they get out of it too is the sense of not only the community, but they also get this extreme professional experience because they benefit from Stephen, who has performed under every great conductor in the world. And this is all transmuted into what they do.
Yeah, so you get a sense that some of these scientists and doctors actually use the music to help them become better healers and better teachers, that the music helps them do their own professions. Do you believe that?
I think music heals a lot of things. You know, if I ruled the world, there would be an orchestra in every elementary school, every junior high, and every high school. I just think it's such a beautiful foundation. And it doesn't mean that everybody's going to go on to become a musician, but it informs your life and it makes it more beautiful, I think.
Yeah, well, as a former high school and college musician, I'd agree with you. And I think a lot of teachers would agree with you as well, that what is missing nowadays in schools and a lot of communities is a real community-based approach to music. Thanks very much for being on the show. We've been speaking with Maureen about her experience as a writer and also working with Symphony Parnassus. Next up, one of San Francisco's most eclectic, talented, and creative theater artists. We speak with Nick Oliveira about Speakeasy and Boxcar Theater.